Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's TheSketchMonkey here, and today we're having a look at this Nardo Gray 2020 Audi RS3 for sale here at Urban Motors. I'm going to link that as always down in the description. Now the thing about this is a 2020 model, and the new one recently came out. However, when you look at this design, I definitely think that this has more of that Audi quality chiseledness to its design. So that's exactly what I want to talk about in this video. We're going to have a look at the front end of this beauty, the side view, and the rear before we take a look at the interior. And last but not least, of course, we're going to take this for a drive. Now, before we jump in and have a look at this design, we need to talk about some of this spec and tech that we have of the 2020 RS3. So we have a 2.5 liter turbo inline 4, putting out 400 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque, connected to a 7-speed dual clutch automatic. Of course, it's equipped with the Quattro all-wheel drive, 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds at 3.9 seconds, and top speed is limited to 155. However, you can unlimit this beast if you want to. Fuel economy comes in at 19 city, 28 highway, and the price for this is $60,990. Now, starting with this beautiful front end of the 2020 Audi RS3, I do believe, as I said, that this is better looking and more Audi, in my opinion, than the current generation. And I do love everything that goes on here, because we have a connection between the headlights connected to the grille, and also, of course, the same on the other side. And then these graphics in the front end have also a connection to the top part, which is the hood. Very simplistic when it comes to the hood design, but as you can see, it does have a connection to the very corner of the grille right here, with this very sharp line that cuts into the hood. And we also have the same angle of the grille in this area, having the same angle as this for the headlights. So when you look at it straight from a front view, you can see that everything flows together, and it doesn't look like any pieces of this design has come off another car. Everything looks to be in line with all the graphics that we have in the front end. I quickly want to show you what I mean when I say that the front, specifically the front end and also the rear, we're going to have a look at that in later in the video as well. But I do think the old RS3 just has more structure in the front end, and this is what I'm talking about right here. So have a look at the new one up top. It has a beautiful starting point for the top end graphics. Cutting through here, we also have nice lines in the hood going into the very corner of the graphic of the grille up here. But then we have, when we have a look at this section, there are a lot of things here that I want to change. For example, this corner in the very bottom, this one feels very out of place and not Audi at all, and it clashes with this lower section that goes down here. So what I want to do is have more of a structured line, not like we have on the current or the 2020 RS3 right here. We have more of a structure and connection, separation between the bumper, the lower graphics, and the top end graphics with this body panel here, this body colored. So let's see if we can redesign this. If I were to redesign it, it would look something like this. So just lowering down this area and having the side intakes, the corner intakes, be a little bit more less aggressive and less high, so we have more body color in this area. And we also fix this corner down here and have it melt into the lower section. And the entire grille here is completely open, being pretty massive in this case. When you have a big grille like this, of course you can't have a bumper in the middle, but regulations say that you need to have some sort of structure in the middle. So you can see that it's open up top. You have the RS3 logo here, the blacked out Audi rings in the middle. This is an option for the other RS3 that I would definitely get. But then you have this section in the middle, which is covered up. So you have a metal bar behind this that acts like a bumper in case of a crash. And then if we move further down, you can see that it opens up again. And the same goes for the side vents. So I do love this front end because everything here is functional. Even these vents at the very bottom here, completely open. You can see the radiator in there as well. Then you have this piece that funnels air into, this is also functional. It funnels air into something here and it shoots out on the inside. I also like this little piece, additional piece on the RS models, because it brings A little bit more of interest to the front end design, and you can see the Quattro at the very bottom looking fantastic. Audi, as you know, always been very proud of their Quattro feature, and I do like that they have it down here. Looks a little bit rally-ish, and you also have a big lip that is sort of separated from the rest of the body. You can see there is a space between here, and that also plants this car properly on the ground in the front end. Now, this being the smaller sibling, you have the RS3, the RS4, the RS5, and so on. That means that we talked about this before, but when you have the smaller sibling, you can add a little bit more styling to the design, and that's what's going on here, for example, in the headlights. With this little tick down, you can see that it goes down here, and this shows me, if I were to just look at the different headlights of Audi, for example the A3, the A4, A5 and so on upwards, you can tell by just looking at the styling of the headlight which one is the smaller sibling, because this has an additional styling piece being this area that dips down, and I think it looks great in addition to this beautiful daytime run light that we have right here. We also have chamfers for every single corner. This corner has a housing for it. This corner also has a nice housing for it going up here. Coming around to the side view of the 2020 RS3. First of all, can I just say how much I appreciate this color. The Nardo Gray just looks absolutely fantastic. We have 19-inch wheels. Let's check out if we have, since this is a Quattro, if we have the same diameter in the front that we have in the rear. We do have 235s in the rear, and I do believe we have the same width in the front end. Actually, we do have thicker wheels in the front end. That is very, very strange. You can see right here we have 255 width on the front tires, but they're thinner in the back. Very strange. I was not expecting that on this RS3, but I still think it looks pretty planted when you look at it like this. And then what I love about this generation A3, then or RS3 in this case, is the new one got a lot beefier. We have a lot more complex surfacing here, for example. I'm gonna link my review of the A3 down in the description so you can go and check that out. And it looks good, but I do still think I prefer this because we have this very sharp shoulder line here going from the very corner of the headlight, just like we want. And if we follow this all the way back here, you can see that it connects to the corner of the taillights before it swings up in the back and creates this beautiful little integrated nail spoiler in the rear, as Audi calls it, to create a clear, sharp endpoint for the rear end design. And this being the, I'm not sure if it's called a shadow line anymore, but it is, everything is blacked out. You can see the trim around the windows. Right here is blacked out. However, this being an RS model, I would still want to have this blacked out. However, the side mirrors, I want to have this. This is probably something that I would do actually on my RS3, is to turn this into silver, like brushed aluminum, so we have some connection to those old S and RS models of Audi. That is one detail that has stuck with me since I was a kid, and that's the reason why I want to have still silver side mirrors for the newer RS models as well. And then further down, you can see that we have this very sharp line at the bottom as well. This is typical German lines. So if you follow this line, you can see how it starts right behind the front axle, continues here, going across the rear axle, and then have a connection in the rear end with this bumper. So you can see the pen lines of the designer sketching this car up. And that is exactly what I feel is missing in today's car design. It feels like it was designed, they skipped the sketch phase on a lot of modern cars and went straight into 3D modeling. That's the vibe I get when I look at modern designs. And this was sort of the last of its generation to have this sketch feel to it when it comes to the overall design. So coming around to the rear end of the 2020 RS3, and again, it just looks so much better than the new one for one simple reason, and that is that we have a clear separation between the graphics, we have the bumper, and then we have the exhaust and the diffuser. In the new one, we have a black piece that sticks down all the way here and creates a hole in the bumper itself. What that does on the new RS3 is it brings the weight of the rear end down in the corners. It feels like it's drooping in this area. So looking at the rear view here, I think this is my biggest, I'm not sure if I should call it a problem, but the biggest thing design-wise on the new RS3 that I want to redesign and change, because look at the current one, or the 2021 that we're reviewing right here. We have a nice line going from the side into the rear end bumper. We also have a diffuser down here, blacked out obviously, with the black tips, typical big RS oval tips at the bottom. And we don't have any sort of body color underneath this area. So the diffuser is the lower section, that is the lowest piece that sort of ends the design of the tail end. And then of course we do have this gorgeous chamfer up top with the nail spoiler. Now look at the new one right here. We have this graphics, and what this does by dipping down like this into the corners here, it drags the entire rear end. It just pulls the graphics downward, because we have body color coming back here now. You can see this piece of body color and then going down into the corners of the rear end. This is what makes this feel a lot heavier and not at all as nimble as the 2020 RS3 down here, in my opinion. Again, if I were to change this, I would do this. So we still have, as you can see, we still have the big diffuser or the black piece sticking up way too far, still in my opinion. I want to have this be a lot lower, but if we were to use the end point of this black graphics that we have, this is what I want to do. So I want to have it no body color piece underneath this level. Underneath here, everything needs to be black. That is going to make it a lot more nimble. I'm not entirely happy still with this integration here, this corner of the new one, and how it clashes with this angle. And that is the reason why I definitely prefer the 2020, or the one that came out in 2017, I believe, this RS3 down here, because it has a much cleaner design and everything feels like it is on the correct spot in the rear end compared to the 2023. Here it feels tight. It feels like everything around this car is constantly under tension. Like we have lines that has been stretched out and creating these very sharp lines and separations between the graphics and the key features all around this car, not just in the rear end. Then we have this black, beautiful spoiler up top specifically for the RS3. I do love this design. I think it's just the right amount of height on this spoiler, and of course the very dynamic and chiseled looking full LED taillights, with this piece being thicker in this area and then it goes into thinner as we cut it off very abruptly and sharply here. The RS3 logo, and again the blacked out Audi rings in the rear end. One thing I've always loved Audi doing with their RS model is just have a look at the size of these exhaust pipes in the bottom. I mean, they are just ridiculously big. I can fit my entire fist in here, and this is just the RS3, the small sibling, having these type of, I can't call this bazooka tailpipes because you wouldn't be able to shoot out a bazooka shell from this oval section here, but they're slanted, they're blacked out, and they look just classy. And you can tell this looks almost like a normal A3, but when you look at all these features coming together, these sporty exhaust, the diffuser, the lip up top, you can tell that there is something special going on with this specific A3, and that is, of course, it is an RS3. So let's pop the trunk here and let me show you the trunk space of an RS3 and how much you can expect to get packed back here. It's pretty big, and if you need more space, as always, you can always fold down the rear seats. Let's check out what's underneath here. You do have the battery being located back here for weight distribution, so we almost have probably a 50-50 distribution here, and you also have a compressor there, I do believe, for the tires. I want to hear your opinion on this generation RS3. Do you prefer the new one, and do you understand what it is I'm trying to say here, specifically with the sketch feel of new cars lacking that feels, and it feels almost like they're being straight into Alias Automotive and started to design the car with 3D software. This, to me, is still a better looking design, as I said, compared to the new one, but I also want to hear what you think about this specific 2020 Audi RS3. So with that said, we talked about the exterior design. Now it's time to jump in and have a look at this beautiful interior. There is some strange features in there that we need to talk about. Jumping into the interior of the 2020 Audi RS3, and I do love pretty much everything that goes on here, but there's one feature that is so weird that I don't understand why Audi did that, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. The doors looks fantastic as well. We do have some carbon fiber up here, a nice designed handle with they carved out some of this metal piece here. You also have the regular switches, the side mirrors, and some storage at the bottom. Nicely designed with leather, Alcantara, and carbon fiber, exactly what you want to see on a sporty version like this. So the seats here are sort of semi electrically adjustable or power adjustable. You have this piece for the lumbar, but the big changes, for the example, the backrest, you do have to use these handles right here and on the bottom back there, and also this one to slide back and forth. And I'm totally fine with that, because how often do you change the seating position? So let's jump in here and let's fire this up and let me show you what this sounds like. Let's turn the hazards off. We have the start button, and let's see what happens now when we start this up. First of all, have a look at just how clean this interior is when the car is off, and then we start up the car. And boom, we have this display popping up from this section on top of the dash. And this design, or this system altogether, is completely redundant because we have this beautiful integration of the gauge cluster. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean in a second. I don't understand why Audi put this in here. I think they felt like they need to put it in because we're in the age now, 2020, where everybody has a infotainment screen, even though it's not necessary in this case. I don't know if you remember my 2016 Audi TT review that didn't have an infotainment screen. Instead, it had everything in the gauge cluster, and that's the exact same system or philosophy that I would love to see in this generation RS3 as well. So let's start up top here with the top part of the dash. We do have a pretty 90s design of the integration of the gauge cluster, which I absolutely love, this rounded housing for it. And as you can see, we have a beautiful, I do believe this is a 12.3-inch infotainment screen that you can adjust. You can have the map take up the entire space. And if we put it in reverse, you're going to see that a backup camera pops up on this screen. However, this is pretty much the only reason why I think this would maybe need an infotainment screen, is for the backup camera. But what if you took this little screen here and added it to this area of the gauge cluster? That, if you did that change on this car, that would completely make this screen redundant. Then you would have everything you need in this big beautiful screen in the gauge cluster, and that's what I want to see in this case. Now, to navigate this screen, we use this toggle here. This is not a touch screen, so we can't use our finger to navigate this screen. And again, that just makes it even more redundant in my case. But if you want to go in and change settings here, you do that with this little dial in the middle here. You can change the drive modes, for example. If we go into dynamic, it becomes a little bit more aggressive, and that's obviously what we're going to have when we take this for a drive later on. I also like the illustrations that we have here, but again, I do think that all of this could have been housed in the gauge cluster itself. We do have some round vents here, and this is how you adjust how much air is coming out of these vents. And I do love this design because it's huge and it's very intuitive. And then you, of course, where the angle of the air is coming out, you just tilt this thing in the middle. Nicely done. It reminds me a little bit of the Audi TT, the first generation. Further down, we do have the controls for the drive select. So you can either use this toggle down here, or you can use this toggle on the dash itself. And then you have some empty spots here for a couple of options that this car does not have: parking assist, hazards, traction control on and off, and press this button, you can turn the entire screen off. But the thing is, when you turn this off, I want it to just go down and not sit up here. I want it to just slide down and not ruin the otherwise very clean interior. So if I were to have this car, I would want it to just be in the lower setting, just be hidden at all times, but you can't do that, but you can turn on and off the screen itself. Further down, we do have the climate control settings, very easy. Dual zone climate control right here. As you can see, we have the heated seats in 3 different levels and some additional AC settings. This is where you adjust the fan speed. Again, very, very easy to use. Further down, we do have a USB port, a 12 volt. We do get 2 cup holders right here, and this is what the key looks like. Very traditional Audi key. Nothing really special about this key except for the RS badge at the very bottom, but it is keyless start, so you just have to have your key in your pocket and hit the start button. Further back, you do have the gear selector. Putting it in reverse, again, it's going to pop up the backup camera up there, as you can see with the trajectory lines. You do have the map navigation here. If you want to go into that, you just click this button and it's going to pop up the map there. So now we have the map on this area, but we still have it in the gauge cluster as well. And again, we talked about this area here for navigating the screen itself. Parking brake back here. Leather wrapped armrest. We can lift this up like that, and that will show you the wireless charger that is located right here under the armrest. You also have a regular USB and an aux outlet right there below. Now, looking at these seats, absolutely beautiful looking seats with these diamond stitching, or square stitching in this case. And since these are heated, you do have some ventilation holes in these squares. You also have the RS embossed or stamped into the seats as well. Very beefy looking seats, and I do think these are some of the most comfortable seats I personally has ever been in. Up top, you do have a sunroof, which you can open and close like that. Very easy. If you want to open the whole glass up, you can do that by using this button right here as well. Let's close that up for now. Moving on to the steering wheel, we have a flat bottom steering wheel with the RS logo, Audi badge in the middle, and of course a bunch of buttons on the left side and right side. So you have the voice command and the navigation here, the volume button as well on the right side, and on the left side you have the controls for the screen itself. I like to have it like this, with the big tachometer in the middle. You have some power and torque gauges to the right side and the navigation to the left. It's just perfect setup for me. Behind here, you do have two pedals. So you have the manual shifting option for the 7-speed dual clutch automatic. These are plastic, which I think is pretty fine since this is the RS3. If it was the RS6 or the RS7, I would like to have these be in carbon fiber. But one thing I do want to change with these pedals is always I want to have them stick out a little lower here, so you can see the pedals from your driving position, both above this spoke and below this spoke as well. You have the cruise control stock here, the indicators, and the washer stock on the right side. Beautiful design of the steering wheel with the Alcantara wrapped on the sides. On the left side, you do have another vent here. You do have the controls for the light settings as well. And last but not least, we do have, of course, some carbon fiber here, and we have a glove box right below it. So let's jump back in the back seat, because I'm interested in seeing if I can fit behind my own driving position, being 6'1". Okay, jumping into the back seat, let's check the leg space and the head space back here. It's pretty tight. You can see my legs are rubbing against the seat in front of me, even if I have my legs sort of on the sides of the seat. This is such a wide seat that it doesn't really matter how wide you sit with your legs, you're still gonna hit it. And you can see my headroom is pretty much non-existent since I'm hitting the roof with my hat right now. If I slide down, can't really do that because again my legs are going to hit the front seats. However, you do have two regular USBs here, and if we fold down this center armrest, you're going to see again Germans with their cup holders, man, they always do something extra with the cup holders. Check this out. If you pop this button right here, it's going to pop up two very overly engineered cup holders. Again, I love that about German cars and how they integrate the cup holders. So we've talked about the exterior design, we had a look at the gorgeous interior with the weird screen up top. Now it's time to take this out on the road and see how this drives. Alright guys, let's take the 2020 Audi RS3 out for a short drive, and it sounds great. 2.5 liter inline 5, excuse me. You have 0 to 60 in about 3.9 seconds, which is not bad at all. It's a very, very quick car, and it puts down the power really well too, because we have the Quattro all-wheel drive system. I have it in dynamic now, the sportiest setting. It's not called sport in Audi language, it's called dynamic. I have yet to drive the brand new Audi RS3, and I do believe I would probably most likely be completely blown away by its performance, but still for me, design and how the car makes me feel when I look at it still is a little bit more important than just raw performance. And that's why I prefer this generation RS3, because I know what I'm driving, I know what it looks like from the outside, and that is a huge deal to me. So let's pop it into manual mode. The shifts are very quick in this dual clutch automatic. It sounds good too. Downshifts are just as quick as upshifts. Can we just program this RS3 to just lower this while I'm driving the car? That would be fantastic if we can do that, because look at it now. We have the same information in the gauge cluster that we have right there. I don't need this screen. It's totally redundant. The only thing, as I said, that it's needed for in this case is the rear view camera, but that could easily have been programmed to be shown again in the gauge cluster. Oh yeah, it pulls like crazy, no wheel spin at all. Again, the quattro all-wheel drive doing its job. I love the crackles. I don't know if you can hear it, but you have some crackles on the downshifts. Just adds to this rally feel of this car. All right, let's see if we can get an opening here so we can floor it one more time. Oh, it pulls so nicely. You can feel the tires grip and put the power down properly without zero wheel spin, even under full throttle in first gear. One pretty interesting thing that I reviewed the Audi TT, the 2016, just a 2-liter turbo, not that long ago, and that I can't remember how many horsepower that had, just over 200 horsepower, something like that. This has 400 horsepower, and the experience of acceleration, yes, this feels a little quicker, but not that much quicker than the Audi TT, which is nuts. I think they did something special with the power delivery of the Audi TT to make, to just have that acceleration feel more powerful than what the car actually is. This would be a fantastic daily driver for me. You have quattro for the snow, you have the perfect size. I don't need a RS5 size for my daily, and it looks great in this Nardo gray. Huge thanks again to Urban Motor here in Denver for providing this RS3 for me to review. If you're interested in this, just go and check them out at urbanmotors.com. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.